Welcome to Hermit Woods, where there's a story in every bottle.
We're live.
Hey.
We're live again. We're
still
alive.
You're still alive.
We're still alive.
I don't know about
Which
that.
sometimes is a small miracle. Cheers to being alive.
Cheers to being alive.
Especially to being alive
To whatever that is.
and live
We're not going to get into that conversation.
on
We've done this before.
Monday. We have a live audience today.
We have a live audience from Canada.
From Canada. They came all the way from Canada to see our show.
Direct. 4.5 hour drive. We got to get there for Facebook Live.
I know.
We
I
gotta
can't
get there.
believe it. This is a
And here they
first. It's never happened on the show before.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
cheers to the
Welcome.
people from the north. They let you across. That's fantastic.
No, they're not going to let them back.
They're not going to let them
It's
back.
Canada
yeah.
they got to worry about. They're not going to let them back in. No, you're stuck in the U.S. now.
So welcome to another Monday night with the Hermits. Thank you for joining us again. We're happy to be here. We have a fun conversation or a fun topic to talk to you about today. Before I get into that, just for everybody who showed up today, if you're showing up for the first time, please like our broadcast, share it with your friends if you think your friends or family would be interested in that as well. And if you are here, let us know. Say something in the comments. Give us your name. And if you're having a beverage with us, please share what beverage it is that you're drinking. Yeah. And if you have any questions while we're in the middle of the show, please put your questions in the comments, whether on YouTube or Facebook, and that way we will attempt to answer all of your questions live here on the show. If for some reason we don't get to your question live on the show, we always make every effort to go and look at the questions after and make sure we get your answers. So please ask any questions you might like to ask. And one last thing, if you haven't subscribed, here we go. Underneath Ken on YouTube is the subscribe button. And we would love it if you would subscribe to our channel. And on Facebook, there's a little bell. If you push the bell, you will be subscribing to our Facebook channel. If you subscribe, you will get notified every time we go live, whether that be here on Monday night in our loft, or maybe some random place on the planet where we don't know.
In the park.
Or in the
We did
park.
last year.
Or in the park, or on a ski slope, or maybe in Narragansett Bay. Who knows where we might be? And every time we go live with a story to tell, you'll get notified. So if you have any interest in that, please subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our channel. So with that all being said, and I can't believe I got through that whole presentation, and Ken didn't interrupt me once. That's fantastic. Cheers.
That's because
great.
we got something in his glass before we started talking.
See?
So he wasn't antsy. So we'll cheers again to that.
So what are we talking about today? He can't help himself.
You're allowed now.
Yeah. Turn him on. Do you have a button for that? Turn Ken on.
Ken, check.
How long? He'll do this for a while, won't he?
Let's just go.
We should just go,
We've got
shouldn't we?
crab apples. Crab apples again. So we were talking about crab apples last week.
Why were we talking about crab apples last week?
Because last week we were picking them.
We were harvesting crab apples. This is Crabapple season. We are in the midst of it. Only sadly, as you learned if you tuned in last week, crab apples are in short supply this year, shorter than probably ever before. On May 18th, we had a New England-wide, even beyond New England-wide frost that wiped out the majority of apples growing in our region here. And as a result, all of the farms in which we procure our heirloom crab apples that we make many of our wines with are no longer available. We did get lucky. We had a couple trees down in Hesky Park that, if you joined us last week, you saw we were harvesting, and we believe they were able to produce fruit because of the lake effect. The warm water was keeping the frost at a minimal, and so they produced some great abundance of apples. We got a good harvest off of those 2 trees, which is good.
Pounds.
It's only every other year that we get to do that, right? Because if you don't prune for it, crabapple,
Yeah, and
Dolgos,
even if you prune, I think they'll still go every other year. The pruning helps,
helps it. Okay.
but the crops get heavy and then real light.
So we got 300 pounds from the park. You got another 50 pounds from our neighbor over here.
Over here on Wakiwan, which is a really unique crabapple. It's got a very dark purple skin with a red flesh on the inside, very astringent, great tannic structure component. And then I picked some apples from my neighbor's house, from Sandy's house down the road.
Crab apples?
No,
regular. Or just
apples.
regular. Okay.
And then one other source.
Ben got some from
from Stone Mountain.
Stone Mountain Farm.
Right, exactly.
Did you see the picture with Ben with his 2 apples?
That's a great picture. One thing I heard that this is interesting. It was on the radio this morning. They were talking about it's apple season, but a lot of orchards lost all their apple crops, and they had Diane from Apple Hill.
Oh, they did. For a moment.
And she had mentioned something that you should still call around to your local orchards. Some places do have some apples, or they're doing other things. But she mentioned that actually, surprisingly, some of the ones that fared a little better were the higher elevation, which I thought was interesting. But I wonder
counterintuitive.
But I wonder, is it because those trees are already a little more used to?
Did she speculate?
She didn't. It just said that some of them fared better than others, and some of them.
Lots of times the elevation will do well because the cold air sinks into valleys and will cause problems.
Oh, that's right. You had a frost at your house. Right. When I was on Taylor Road, and I'm only 100 or 200 feet on Taylor Road higher than you.
Yeah.
But there were times when you got affected by the frost, and I didn't.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's the movement of the air mass to lower elevations.
Yeah,
that often wipes out
right.
low-lying valleys.
I remember I think they talked about that when we were in the Finger Lakes, and they talked about there was a late frost that had wiped out all the Pinot Noir, but then a few of the places it just it depended on the way the flow of the hills.
Yeah, I have apples on my trees at home. But I don't have any peaches.
And interestingly, from talking to orchards, didn't you discover also that a lot of the heirloom apples survived?
Yeah, those tend to flower later. The apples take longer to grow. They're harvested in October or November even. And so they seem to have gone past it and survived. But I don't know why Dolgo didn't. Well, Dolgo's an early apple. I mean, it comes ripe in August.
Yeah.
So it's an early season apple. So I think that's why it got wiped out.
So at Stone Mountain, because they were the ones that they planted a bunch of trees sort of
They have quite a few heirloom varieties.
75 trees, right? Didn't he plant more?
Did their Dolgos?
I don't think he's planted any more Dolgo, but he planted a whole bunch of heirloom, like Roxbury
Right, on the other side of the vineyard. Yeah.
So those are underway, and he actually has those available. He's survived. He got some loss, but he got some of his heirlooms are fine.
So on that note, I want to just reinforce again, if you are thinking about experiencing apple orchards this fall, there's no better time or season to do it, because the orchards throughout New Hampshire are in desperate need for your support right now. They're not getting the apple crops that they used to, commercially or retail. They're not able to sell the apples, and that's how they fund their farms. Yep. So please, if you have time on the weekends, don't hear that there's no apples and don't go to orchards.
Go to the orchards.
There's lots of things.
They actually up at Apple Hill, they created a bunch of hiking trails this year, so you can still go and hike outside and be out,
And the orchards, they have the donuts. You can get cider donuts, and there's other fruits that are available, and there's other stuff crafted from the apples from previous years, jams and jellies, and they're all holding events and things that to celebrate the fall. So please support your local orchard, because they're in need of it more this year than ever before. So
for sure, yeah.
So
downstairs now, those crab apples that we harvested last week are now in the fermenter, and the yeast just went onto them today. And I don't have enough crab apples to really make a batch of heirloom crabapple wine. It's just such a small
amount. Yeah.
So a specialty product that we have every few years is a Crabapple Cyser. And a Cyser is a type of mead where you join that honey with apples. And so this is going to be a Crabapple Cyser that'll be released next year.
Which in some ways is kind of exciting because Crabapple Cider is one of our most popular.
I love it.
Everybody loves
It's
it.
great.
It will
I usually
sell
don't have
out
enough.
very fast.
I just have enough apples to make this. Sometimes I have enough apples to make the Crabapple Cider like we did last year.
And that's what we're drinking right
And
now.
that's what we have right now. But I often don't have enough to make that Cyser. And so this is the time to do it. And we'll be out of this. We won't have this next year. We will have the Crabapple we just started releasing the 22 vintage. So we have.
So it may make it through part of the
we've
year
got
anyway.
about 3,500 or 4,000 bottles of this. So that should hold us through the year, hopefully until the crop of 24 gets turned into wine. And we have it for 25.
Well, hopefully not, but
Well, I mean,
but maybe
great.
it will.
If people like Crabapple
We'd really
wine,
like you to come
buy
in
the
and
Crabapple wine.
enjoy the Crabapple
course.
wine. But
Of course, yeah.
so that's what the show is about today. We talked about picking Crabapples
I have
yesterday.
I have a special.
We have a special,
I was
yeah.
excited when Ken brings something up. from the
I
side.
know, in a beaker,
In a beaker,
here's the
yeah.
scientist in him. He's got his beaker. So we're going to just talk about the various products that we make with those
And what do we
wonderful
have on
Dolgo
our-
Crabapples.
On our table here, too.
So we challenged one of our cooks downstairs to think about it's fall. We're coming into fall. Well, it's
85
not fall.
degrees
It's
up there right now.
shh.
But it's
Fall's
it's
on the way.
September
We
fall.
on
got
the
we
way.
got 2
It's
weeks, and
fall.
we're going to be full on into fall,
Yep.
and so we're going to start thinking about fall menu items, and the kinds of things that we want to share with
Right.
you in our eatery that are going to be related to fall. And as always, we try and come up with food items that are not only going to represent the season, but and the things that we grow during those seasons, but things that pair well with the wines that we serve.
So what is this? This is really
This is
really tasty.
really good. I want
There's
Ken
flatbread.
to yeah.
So this isn't on the menu. This is. Why don't you tell us about it? Ken just
So,
created this. You
yeah,
challenged
so I
him.
believe so. This
Ken the
is
cook, not Ken the
um,
winemaker.
so we've talked before about
Oh,
the Waz
wow.
Isn't that good?
company. So this is the cranberry orange cognac spread, which is one of my favorites. So it's nice mix. There's a little bit of like kind of Christmassy spice to it a little
Yeah,
bit. There's
right.
a lot of fantastic flavor, and then a cheddar mozzarella blend and chicken. That's what I think is on this. And this is fantastic.
It's delicious.
I think this should go on our fall menu.
For sure.
Mm.
It's really good. And pairs great with Crabapple Cider.
Yeah.
It does. So we talk about that a lot. Crabapple sort of has two important places that we talked about in our wine world. One
On
On a
Chuck's
hot-
boat.
on Chuck's boat on a hot summer day, either sparkling or still. Chuck prefers the sparkling, the Dolgo cans, but it's really on a hot summer day. It's very refreshing. It's not almost. It is dangerously refreshing because a can of wine is a half a bottle, and it just disappears very rapidly. And
Especially if Chuck's around.
so it can be very dangerous. So we should have a warning label on our cans when we do that because it really is dangerous. 2 cans and you're done. So it's great as a summer refreshing beverage, but really I think the best calling for our Crabapple wines are the Thanksgiving dinner. Yeah, it's
Anything
just
roast turkey.
roast turkey
Really
and
goes well.
the cranberry sauce that goes with it. It sort of works the same way, but
Yep.
the rich buttery foods, that Crabapple is the
Cuts
tartness
through
just
with it.
cuts through and gives you a nice fresh clean mouth feel every time you put a bite of food in your mouth. So
Yeah.
so we asked our chef to create some ideas that he might consider for our fall menu, and one of them was this pizza. It's just delicious.
I think
Yeah,
that's
definitely
I'm going to save a bite for the
Yeah,
for the
I'm
next
trying
two.
not to eat it all, so I try some of the other.
I know mine are gone.
And
Hard
then
to
the
do.
other thing
It's
we've
hard.
got
You can have a
there,
bite of mine.
he also made a wrap for us that is turkey with cheddar, and then he took that same cranberry orange cognac spread and blended it with some mayo for a turkey wrap.
Oh, this is smoked.
Smoked turkey?
Smoked
Yeah.
turkey.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh, that
I
might
always
go.
want-
That
so
might go really well
the,
with what's in the flask.
One of our early menu staples was the cranberry turkey wrap, and people got confused. They thought it was going to be sort of the Thanksgiving style wrap, and
Right.
it wasn't. It was that we used the cranberry mustard from Blackwater,
Ooh.
which is a delightful mustard. Though it's not actually super strong on the cranberry. It's a really good mustard, but not that fruity, really. But I have on occasion myself made that wrap with the cranberry orange spread instead of the mustard, and it's a good.
That's good.
It's
Yeah.
a great combo. So I like this.
It goes, the wrap, I took quite a bit, goes well with this. However, it's a little, the
little
sandwich
too strong?
dominates. It definitely dominates.
Not now.
Not now.
So what's next?
Try it with
Sparkling.
this.
So this is our sparkling heirloom crabapple.
Yes.
We've had this for about 6 years now.
I'm gonna make it.
Thank you.
For our studio
glasses.
audience.
You got a job to do.
It's a hard job, right?
It's a tough job.
Ken,
Gracias.
try this.
Yeah. Do you have a glass for them? I'll go grab one.
So this product, like I said, we've been doing this sparkling
try some
version of
more
Crabapple for about
Crabapple?
6 or 7 years now. And this is the one that last year, was it last year or the year before, I think, actually, we started canning. It was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We started canning some of our wines. We obviously, we've shared this before, we can our wines because a lot of our audience
Do a
during the
Facebook
summer
Live
comes up from the boat
broadcast
docks. We have
every
one of the
Monday
largest,
evening.
the largest lake in New Hampshire, just 100 yards down the hill. And so a lot of folks show up here after getting off their boats. And a great way to enjoy our wine on a boat is in a can. A not so great way is in a bottle. You obviously risk the glass on the boat, and you have to portion the product off into something else to drink it with your friends. So you're either putting it in a paper cup because you're not going to use a wine glass on a boat if you're.
Oh, we just passed the bottle around. That works too.
Yeah, that works too, I guess. So anyway, we put our heirloom crabapple in cans, and we call that Dolgo. And if you want to just take the bottle and get creative with it, you're welcome to. Our studio audience is interested in photography of our different wines. So
Photography of wine
yeah,
and
it's good.
food.
Wine, honestly, I think a lot of food is very photogenic, but I think wine, it's so pretty.
Well,
you can stage
honestly,
beautiful pictures with wines.
it's a lot
pieces.
harder to stage photos of food. Food,
tough.
it's harder to make it look good in a picture. Whereas wine there's
looks
not a lot of
really good.
variables,
It's
so
pretty
it's
easy for it to
easy
look
to
really
do.
good.
Yeah, easier anyway.
I have a lot of fun, sometimes taking pictures of our wines for various social media things. It's really easy to make it look pretty, especially because we have so many different colors.
Great
and
colors, yeah.
variety of bottles and
Mhm.
bottle shapes, and the labels are different, and the colors of the wine are all different. Even our 3 rosés kind of follow this beautiful gradient of
Oh, they're changing.
deepness.
Every vintage is a little different.
Yes, well, we know that. What I want to talk about, Ken, you just poured this, among other things, but you just poured this sparkling crabapple.
Yes.
That last wine we had was 100% Dolgo Crabapples, and it was almost clear.
I know. That was strange. That vintage especially, those were slightly less ripe crab apples that we got from Stone Mountain last year. And I don't know why the color from the skins, it macerated just as long as it has in the past.
So the color didn't even come out during
It didn't
maceration.
come out. It
Because I
was-
know you've had problems with the color stripping out during filtration.
Yeah, later on, but it didn't. It was always like this. It started off clear. It's like, how did that happen?
Well, I thought
With all
with the crabapple wine, I thought, can you add a little bit of blueberry?
There is a little bit of blueberry in there.
Because of
I
the
thought that was mostly
But
for
the blueberry
color, right?
just protects the natural color of the crab apple so that it gets through the whole process
Okay.
into the bottle. When the crab
But it
apple
is
wine
usually a bit
first
pink to start
ferments,
off.
it has this color,
Oh, okay.
and then as it ages, gets filtered, gets into the bottle, it gets a more orange sort of color, loses some of the color with a little bit of blueberry that helps it. This is already has a little bit of loss of its reddish pinkish color because this is a 2020 vintage. So this is a 3-year-old vintage. And so you can see the color. In a moment, we'll see this is a little
pink.
pinker
That one's
in color.
yeah,
And this is
sure.
very
It's actually
light.
quite pale, yeah.
So this is a very light, this is the same vintage as this.
Oh,
And this is this is the lightest vintage ever
so that's all blueberry because we know the crab apples produced a clear.
because it was fairly clear.
So the
Right.
color is entirely
Well,
different.
no, because there was some color in that during the ferment without. Oh no, I did the blueberries right away, so I don't know.
Well,
The-
you do
that
know.
Crabapple.
Because that's the same apple.
Well, that was that with no blueberries.
Right. So I'm saying, so that
Right,
would have
so
been
that-
clear too.
That's probably all from the blueberries.
It'll be
That's
interesting to see. So you said some of the crab apples you got this year that had that really dark purple skin and the
Well,
flesh
that's
is a little
what
bit red.
the
So
color
that
downstairs.
Cyser is probably
The
going
color
to be
downstairs
dark.
already. I just crushed the apples yesterday, and the color is already deep purplish red in color.
Those are dark apples down there, right?
Well,
Especially the last harvest we did,
Those were the second harvest down there. They were real dark, and then the apples up the road,
which have the colored skin. I mean, the colored pulp.
colored pulp. Yeah, the flesh itself
You-
is red.
Do you remember the name of that apple? What's the difference? Because it's not a Dolgo.
It's not a Dolgo, and
Similar,
and,
but-
and the owner doesn't know the name of the apple. She's researched it. She used to work in an apple orchard. And
She works with plants. She's a
Yeah.
gardener.
Yeah. She's got a great yard there. I had no idea.
Oh yeah,
goes way back.
down to the lumber yard down there. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't see it.
No,
She
it's
has the
got all
biggest
trees.
lot. She's got the biggest lot on that road.
Yeah, it's cool.
I
I've
had
seen
no
that.
idea.
So you're absolutely correct. No longer a problem competing.
Yeah, this holds up just fine.
This holds up just
And it's
fine.
got that cleansing sort of bite to the finish of the wine. Even with the smoked.
Yeah, even with the smoked. I don't know if we'll have it with this one. Well, of course I do know. It's going to be delicious. That's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that flatbread's a great addition for the fall. Hopefully Ken, the cook, will bring that out
Yeah.
and add it to our repertoire.
The turkey wrap is delicious, but it seems more consistent with what, more classic traditional turkey
Yeah,
wrap.
it's more straight ahead.
It's more straight
turkey wrap
ahead,
type
whereas
stuff.
this
That's
is
a little more exotic.
really exotic. Yeah, it's
unique,
good word for
unique
it.
flavors for sure.
So this is Dolgo. So you can get this. You can't get it in can any longer. Chuck drank them all,
Mhm.
but
Chuck did drink them all.
Pretty much.
we hope someday to have this back in can again. Chuck
Yeah.
certainly does.
We will.
And we will,
sure we
yeah.
will.
No, we've talked about this before. We have to solve our canning line problem, which we're thoroughly vested in solving. But for the
It's not
time
really
being,
a problem. If anybody wants to give us $100,000,
problem
problem
solved.
solved.
Done.
So
Yeah,
that would be no
Voila.
problem. It's easy.
you let us know.
But in the meantime,
you already know what specific line you want. You've got it all set, right?
We've got it narrowed down to 3 lines, all of which will be fun. So we're still, because we have the time, we can dial in and choose exactly, but any one of them is going to be fine.
yeah,
So
we're
they're
ready.
We're
It's coming.
ready.
It's coming.
We've got
So
it all laid out.
What
ready to go.
vintage is the bottle that you shared?
The one you just had?
Yeah.
That's 2020.
And is there a subsequent vintage in storage in the warehouse? No?
Nope.
That's it.
That's it.
How much do we have left?
We have about 40 cases.
You're kidding. Did you
We're
tell
gonna
Chuck this?
we're
Don't
gonna
tell
run
Chuck
out.
because we won't get to
We
share it with
will-
our
we will-
customers
we will
anymore.
run out.
As soon as you let Chuck
We're
know.
going to run out of that one.
So yeah,
Because
if
that-
you want sparkling crabapple on your table for Thanksgiving,
You better get it.
you better get it.
Yeah, we will run out
Especially, is Chuck on? Is he listening?
He,
If
he hasn't said anything yet.
okay.
of that. He's at the warehouse right now filling up his car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he got jumped in his car.
What? We're going to run out? Yeah, unfortunately, what's unique is back in 2020 was a poor year for crab apples. 19 was a huge year for crab apples. We had massive
One of the biggest ever.
amount, huge, biggest ever. And so we made a whole bunch of wine. The next year, 2020, I only had a small amount. I had plenty of the 2019 still product, so I turned the entire 2020 crop into sparkling. So there's no still Heirloom Crabapple from 20 or Crabapple Cider or Cyser.
Wow.
Vintages come and go in different ways around here. It's not.
I'm glad you're responsible for that.
I'm totally responsible, I think, for all this stuff.
It's
It's
good.
a little bit of madness
Better
going
you
on
than
around.
me.
But this I'm very excited about because I haven't had this in.
So now we're in
Since
a
I
new
bought it.
vintage. This is which year?
That's a brand new vintage, 2022. And this is now in the shop.
Yep.
And
not on the
It's
tasting
not on the
Not on
tasting menu right
but
now.
available in the restaurant.
but this is like the last 3 days I was restocking, and we sold more of this than the strawberry rhubarb last 3 days
That vintage.
of this product.
So what did you say? It's not on the
But it's
tasting
not on the
menu.
tasting menu.
menu? I don't understand.
Quite amazing. I don't understand it either.
It's in the rosé flight.
Ah,
It's one of the most popular flights, probably second most.
wow. So
Think,
we got to
yeah.
get it on the tasting menu.
Well,
There you go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need it on the tasting menu?
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, we don't need to.
So
Yeah.
this is not on the regular tasting menu, right? Well, part of the problem is we may run out of this. That's just what it's going to be.
Oh,
which is-
that's
which
right.
is fine.
We don't want to push this out too hard because we don't want to run out too quickly.
Well, we run out. You know, it's one of those things. But I really like this vintage. It's a very light. It's a more refined vintage to me. It didn't have the same acid level as the others.
I think it tastes a little
Thank
sweeter.
you. There you guys. You guys came on the right night. Yeah.
We have another live audience.
Yes,
That's
right.
yeah.
I think it tastes a little sweeter than the last vintage. It's still not sweet, but there's just a little hint
Yeah,
to it.
it actually has a little less sugar than
Really?
previous vintages. But
Yeah,
this
I don't get sweet.
vintage, I get sweetness too. This has less of the acid bite than the previous vintage that you just had. And so the sweetness comes off, hitting you right up front,
Yeah,
but then it fades off.
it does.
afterwards.
Yeah.
I think the crab apple's on our tasting menu. It is on the tasting menu. Yeah. I
That's
just
what
poured
I
it.
thought. Yeah.
Yeah, we have all three rosés. We have three.
Oh yeah, you're right.
yeah,
all
we have
three
three
rosés
rosés.
are on.
Yeah,
Yep.
because we figured we're just going to pour it.
That's what I was
People
going to say
are gonna
because
enjoy
we
it.
just made this
We
decision
made
to
the
make sure
decision
all
to make sure it's on. Let's go.
go.
Drink this wine, buy this wine, enjoy this wine. That's it. But it is a lighter vintage.
It is, and I don't get that same. It doesn't come across. Maybe it's how I'm the food or whatever, but I don't get the sweetness up front that I get with the earlier vintage. That
What I like
first
about this
fruity,
one
sweet.
is it's smoother.
Yeah,
From that 20 vintage is rougher.
I need to try it with this. That is so good.
That's a good blend. Well, it's that Waz sauce. I think is what really
Mhm.
those Waz.
Have we
sauces.
talked about Waz?
We should talk about.
We should
Waz.
talk about
We have,
Waz.
but we should again because they're just so good.
So
We sell,
Actually-
we sell quite a bit of it here.
we do.
We use quite a
Geraldine, my wife, 10 years ago or so, was responsible for helping
bit.
us
Is she the one that
find.
found it?
She helped us build our deli counter and some of our initial wines and cheeses and meats, and she found Fortuna. That was one of her
How'd
finds,
she
and
find those?
I don't remember. It was she was just digging in, trying to find
Right.
good local venues that we could work with, and she hit some home runs. And was this guy from Australia?
Yeah.
He traveled the world as the head chef on private
on a cruise
yachts.
line.
No,
Oh,
private yachts.
Private yacht.
100% private yachts. And he was the guy who created the meals for the rich and famous all over the world. And
And then
He
he met a girl from New Hampshire.
he met a girl from New Hampshire, which put a cork in that.
Did she travel with him for a while?
No.
No.
When they got married, and she made it pretty clear, if you're going to be married to me, you're not going to be traveling the world on private yachts.
Yeah.
So she lured him to New Hampshire, and we're thankful for her luring him here, because he then took some of the many recipes that he was creating on these private yachts and created his own company producing these chutneys and sauces.
And is
and
Waz his last name, or
it's his nickname,
It's his nickname.
His name is Warwick. Is his name.
Warwick. Yeah.
Okay.
So he's born and raised in Australia, traveled the world as a specialty chef and met this woman from New Hampshire, thankfully, and moved to New Hampshire. So he's in Bethlehem, New Hampshire, not far, about an hour north of here. He's created this amazing products, and Geraldine discovered him.
That reckless, do they? They don't use any of these products, do they? That
Are we
reckless?
showing this product?
Oh yes.
I think where was it?
Somebody from the audience asked
I
if
know.
we're selling the Waz here. We've been selling Waz here for
No, it was
10 years since Geraldine discovered them.
I think it was at Shillings.
That you found it?
There was something on the menu up at Shillings in Littleton that I recognized the name, in the menu description. I recognized it, but they had, whatever it was, maybe it was the balsamic fig, but they had gotten one of the Waz spreads, and then once they had it at the brewery, they had infused it or mixed it with their beer.
Oh, really?
Because initially I was asking, did he custom make one of his spreads for you? And they said, no, we just get the regular one and we do this to it. I'm pretty sure that was That was the Waz.
We'll have to find out.
Shillings.
But anyway, we sell Waz. You can buy Waz in other places. I think you can buy it online. He's got a great website.
Put his website in the comments.
Wow,
The other wonderful thing about the website is, yes, you can order it, but he also
Great
has
recipes.
He has a tab for recipes.
Have you tried this one?
Oh, yeah.
That's probably our other
the
most
hot
popular.
pepper one?
Yeah. And
It's
this
really
this recipe list,
fantastic.
it's
And this was the one, it's the
fantastic.
cranberry orange, right? That was on
Yep.
the flatbread?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're so good. And we don't even carry nearly everything that he does.
Really?
Oh yeah, not even close. He has a lot more. He has other certain
There's
different.
some of the other things we don't find as easy to use. in
Yeah,
our
some
menu.
more of the cooking sauces, the marinades,
Yeah.
those sorts. We don't sell as much. We have some of the vinegars a little bit,
Okay.
but it's more these jams and chutneys that move well here, especially because they work really well with our food menu. We can put them on boards and
This one
sandwiches and things.
is you take some soft cheese like a brie
Oh, yeah.
and spread this over the brie, and it's just brilliant. It's
It's really-
so addicting.
because
Yeah.
it's not that spicy, but it's got a little kick to it.
No, I mean,
And
but
putting
you
it
can,
in
triple
it's so
onion.
nicely, that triple, I mean, you can
You put
basically
this-
just eat it with a spoon. You can,
Yeah, but even better, you put the triple onion on a flatbread and put some cheese. Pick your cheese. I don't really care. Put some cheese on top, bake it, and you have French onion soup
We've got
On
that.
a
That's
on
on
a
our menu.
flatbread.
The French
It's
onion flatbread.
fantastic. It's so good. We have it on our menu. And then, of course, we're trying the cranberry orange cognac. This is what was on the flatbread that he just created for us. And it's delicious. We've had all of these we've had since the beginning. You didn't bring up the balsamic fig. That is by far our
yeah.
most popular.
Yep.
And again, we make a flatbread from that. That's the balsamic fig flatbread. And you can't go wrong. You put that on a flatbread, pick your cheese, whatever you want, and you have a brilliant flatbread. And we use a little dollop of it on our cheese and charcuterie boards, so people get to sample it, and it's to die for.
I feel like over the summer, I feel like I order from
There you
him
go.
about monthly, and every time I order these big jars, and I get 5-6 giant jars, and then all of a sudden it's 3 weeks later, and I look at our shelves out back, and we're already running low, and I got to
They're
order
gone.
more, and it's good stuff, and we move through it. That balsamic fig pizza has been on the menu for years, and it's such a good one.
So,
I can't wait till this is
What's
on
the
the shelf.
beaker?
what's in the beaker?
Try it.
The mad scientist.
I love the way this came out.
Did you pour some in yours
I
already?
did.
Okay. So I can have the
won.
rest?
No.
You can, but Marika will be
No.
quite upset.
Don't you worry. I can. There's exactly 150 milliliters in here. We'll make sure to divide it up nicely.
Save some for the guests.
Yeah, so
Oh.
at least a couple sips for our audience.
Good.
So tell us about this wonderful beaker that we're about to sample here.
So this beaker came out of a tank
Look
downstairs.
at the legs on that beaker.
Yeah, this has got a little bit more of a
Wow.
kick to it. And this is dry. So this is crab apple with no back sweetening.
Wow.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
But
look at that.
a little more ethanol in this.
Mhm.
one.
That's right. They're moving rapidly, so no sweetness, but there's a really wide
Nice ring,
variety
yeah,
of little drips
yeah.
there.
So
Okay.
Tamworth Distillery is 30 minutes up the road
Yep.
in the beautiful little town of Tamworth. And they make fantastic spirits, a wide range of different spirits, both brown and clear spirits. And the head distiller there, Jamie, contacted me about 7 months ago, and said, Ken, I've got some barrels that had an apple brandy in that had an apple brandy in it for 4 years. I'm taking that brandy out to bottle it. Do you want the barrels? And I said, sure. It's great because I happen to have a whole bunch of crabapple wine that I haven't bottled yet. And I'll take my crabapple wine and I'll put it into your apple brandy barrels. So over came his apple brandy barrels. We filled it up with this wine. We let it sit, and about 2 or 3 months is all
Thank
it
you,
took.
folks.
Have a nice evening. 2 or 3 months, and it just picked up this great nuance and character of those brandy notes from
can
that
smell
barrel.
it.
It's a charred American oak barrel that this brandy was in, and I think it married perfect with that brandy. And I'm going to leave it dry. And I know you're working on a label with them,
Yep.
and they do fantastic labels.
Well,
Yeah.
it's no surprise. The owner of that company was the owner of one of the largest advertising agencies in New York.
Oh, really? He was that too?
And they
This guy.
he
'Cause
did
you- Hendrix?
Hendrix
Hendrix
gin,
gin.
and also what's the
It's Sailor Jerry.
Sailor Jerry.
And his company had the Marlboro cigarette account. I mean, they were talking huge, big. Yeah.
You like that?
So they do beautiful work.
And it's interesting. It tastes different than last time. I feel like we sampled it.
It's
but
evolving. It's changing.
Yeah.
It's not
But-
bottled yet. It's sitting in a
it's-
tank waiting to be bottled because I'm not sure if the label design is going to go on this kind of bottle or on that kind of bottle.
That kind of
or-
bottle. But
It
you
will
should
be?
still wait. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's the template I gave him.
Oh, okay. You're going with that template.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's different.
So I
'cause
could bottle it.
I would wait till we see the label, just to be sure. I'm pretty sure I can check. We'll check.
We'll
you
check.
do it right.
We'll get back to that.
But it's
Just because
interesting.
I think as this ages in the bottle too, it's really going to just enhance it. It's just going to keep evolving
It's
and
like
growing. and
candy.
changing.
It's
Yeah.
evolving.
Candy
It's
notes,
evolving
caramel
in the
notes.
glass so much.
Yeah.
But it's nice because you get that sense of that brandy, and I think that some of that is going to calm down a little bit. It's already calmed down. from
Another
where it
reason
was.
to not bottle it just yet.
Well, that'll help it go faster. I think it'll calm down faster in the bottle.
It's
things
changing
age
in the glass.
faster.
The first sip I had was, you're right, it was much more like you could taste that it wasn't back sweetened. It did have sort of that ethanol, but now it's opening up more. I smell
You're
much
also
more.
your
It's
your
getting the
your nose is
vanilla
burned
and
from all the ethanol too, so you're less accurate with the
fair.
aroma.
It's so interesting because I this isn't normally a barrel aged wine, and I remember the first time I tasted it, I didn't quite know what to think because it was just
I wasn't quite
so
sure either when that
different, and it
happened.
was
Yeah.
a little odd to me having that barrel aged flavor with a rosé. There was a bit of a disconnect for me, but it's just so interesting, and I like it.
It's important to mention when we talk about a barrel-aged wine, this is very different from a classically barrel-aged wine. People barrel-age a wine, a classic
This
wine, a
is barrel.
traditional one.
This is barrel finished.
Yeah, exactly.
This is like a sherry finished Scotch.
Because a barrel-aged wine typically picks up tannin, it picks up
Right.
oak
This
flavor,
is
it
just-
picks up some of
this
the
is finished in the barrel.
toast.
Right.
But this barrel was neutral all the way.
Yep.
It had given up any toast or tannin or barrel flavor, but it had the residual
It had
of the,
brandy,
of the brandy.
soaked into the wood, and you can get the brandy coming out of here. And it was an apple brandy. That's what I think goes beautifully with it because we're staying consistent with that style. You're not. That's why for me it's always weird when you take like a bourbon barrel and you put Merlot in it, and it's like what? And people love it. It's out there. There's a lot of bourbon finished stuff that to
Usually
me doesn't
Cabernet.
fit with a red wine. You're used to that being finished in a toasted barrel.
I've felt all along that that's just a fad that's going to come and go. And because Mondavi was producing a Cabernet Sauvignon barrel, whiskey bourbon barrel, fermented cab, and I think it's going to come and go. Just like Granddad's root beer.
Oh, that sounds good.
Right. There are things that come and go.
Go.
I mean, Bordeaux has been around for a long time.
They're not going anywhere.
Figured out a really nice blend of grapes to make a proper, big, bold, dry red wine. And the U.S. and elsewhere love to just change it up, make new things. But that's not necessarily a good thing or a lasting thing. I bet a century from now, there's not going to be these bourbon-aged
I'm pretty sure
Cabernet.
10 years from now, there's not going to be bourbon barrel.
Maybe much shorter than that.
In the comments, I posted the link to the apple brandy from
Oh, great.
Tamworth. And yeah, it's they were apples from Carter Hill Orchard in Concord.
Okay.
Another great, wonderful spot. Yeah. Let's see what else
Excellent.
it said. Double distilled and big still.
So some of the people in our audience may recall that a couple months ago, we released 2 vintages of special red wines, our Petit Blue Reserve and our Red Scare, aged in Tennessee whiskey barrels that previously had beer in them at Stoneface Brewery. Well, when we were interacting with Jamie at Tamworth Distillery, I mentioned I had these barrels that were made out of sugar maple staves, not oak. And they had added this great nuance to this Red Scare wine. And Jamie tried the wine. He's like, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. Any chance I could get those barrels? I said, sure. So I gave him a couple of the barrels that came from Stoneface, came from Tennessee.
You drove them up there on your motorcycle, right?
Almost. We tried that. We strapped the barrel, a full-size whiskey barrel, to the back of the Tiger.
And then
I drove around
the
the neighborhood here and just about fell over half a dozen times. So we decided not to drive that
I'm
out
proud
there,
of you, Ken.
Which
Thank you.
is good. It was hard to do.
I know. I'm surprised.
We could have done it.
We almost did it, didn't we?
We could do it in the future.
We'll do it again.
Yeah, I'm sure we
We
will.
have. It's just engineering.
But that's fun. And the barrels that this was in, that came from Tamworth Distillery, influenced this wine, are now at Stoneface Brewery.
They are.
Yes, they are.
I didn't know that part of the story. I knew that the Stoneface Maple barrel had
been
gone
the
up.
central point of moving
I
barrels
love this.
Well, you
between
kind of
those
are
two.
essential between the two.
Geographically?
things.
That's true, yeah.
And in ABV.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going from beer to wine.
Well,
to
that's-
the
I
spirits
wonder,
and back.
is that sort of the right way? I don't know. I feel like you could go any direction around that triangle, and the three places could. It's a.
I mean, I
A
love,
lot of people
I
talk
love the
about-
products of Tamworth. I love the products of Stoneface. I love our products. So to me, making these connections just is so exciting.
Well,
so fun.
and we talk about this a lot during a lot of our tours. People talk about what's your favorite wine, and we end up in this conversation about what's your favorite beverage, or and my
just always the one that's in your glass.
It's always one in my glass, and I don't discriminate against any of the alcohols,
Right.
because it's not I talk about the idea that this is you get home from work, or you get home from a long busy day of whatever you're doing, and it's time to have a beverage, right? So it's
An adult
time,
beverage.
an adult beverage. You want to tie a little buzz on and enjoy the evening. So you're thinking about,
Sparkling water.
what am I going to have? And sparkling water is probably not on the list. So you're thinking about, what am I going to enjoy? And at this moment, you begin to take in all of the things that are
With all your
occurring,
senses.
with all of your senses. You start to take in the season, the people that you're with, the food that you're about to eat, the temperature in the room or outside, the music that's playing,
All of those
all
influence
of
your
these
choice.
things. Yeah, there's a lot of influences, and you begin to think. And sometimes, people say, "So what wine do you choose?" And I say, "Well, sometimes I choose a beer. It's not wine.
Right.
It's
I
gonna
said,
go
for
somewhere
me,
else."
actually, yeah, I think it's sort of the kind of end of the work day.
I mean, yesterday-
I'm much more likely to just feeling cracking a beer at the end of the day.
Well, it's
has
different
a
all the
different sort
time.
of satisfaction. Whereas often more with dinner, I'm gonna have a glass of wine.
But what I would
Yeah.
urge you
But-
and everybody else is to try and buck that initial gut sort of taught response. End of day beer. Everybody knows that, right? It's Miller time, as they've been teaching us for years, right?
There's
Right.
marketing, yeah.
Well, that's marketing. That's
Good
what it's about.
marketing.
Just teach us that it's time for a beer. We get home from work, it's time for beer. Buck that and really just try and understand what's happening in your senses, what's happening in the moment. And you may find that one of these days it won't be a
Seltzer
beer.
water is great.
It'll,
With
That's
Campari
true.
and a little gin.
Yeah.
Just saying, it's
Yeah,
really,
no, it may be a cocktail for
it
sure.
might be a cocktail.
But you
A
give
gin and tonic,
yourself
oh, yeah.
the breadth of space or
So many
the
options, yeah.
space to try something different, to try something new, to experience another beverage, to experience that moment differently than you might have experienced it yesterday. And you're going to discover new things. You're going to enjoy new things, and it's worth it. Because so many of us, it's Miller time. Gonna crack a beer. We don't enjoy our senses,
Right.
or we don't engage our senses. We don't engage our own thinking and our own ideas. We go with what the marketers told us it's time to do. And I'm telling you, forget them. Forget the marketers.
What did you just say? Did you hear that?
Gonna
Did you
say,
hear that?
what am I doing?
Did you just hear
Oh,
that?
God. What am I doing?
doing? Wow.
Well,
right.
it's true.
Pay attention to our marketing, please. There's a lot of effort that goes into it. We think long and hard about what's on these labels, how things are presented.
Well,
Right.
actually, no. I was gonna say the point of marketing, you're not supposed to pay attention to it. It's just, if marketing is done well, it's
Well,
you don't
that's
even
right.
realize
It's
you're
just like
being
in the
marketed.
movie theater
Sublime,
that
sublime.
1 out of every 24 frames is a bucket of popcorn in the movie theater.
Right.
Boom! I'm gonna have
You
popcorn.
don't even
Yeah.
notice it.
Yeah, well,
That's-
we don't want that to happen either. We want you to enjoy the beverage that you're drinking, whatever that beverage might be, and we want you to enjoy it with all of your senses. And yes, we hope it's one of ours someday. But if it's not, it's not. That's the way it is. What do we talk about here? We're not in the business of selling wine. We're in the business of selling experience, education, and entertainment. I mean, that is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to create an opportunity for you to learn and grow, and hopefully, after you've learned and grown, you'll choose one of our wines to bring home with you, of course.
right.
There's no doubt that's important, because we might not be here if you don't.
Very good.
Wow,
Yeah,
we
that was
were
fun, huh?
all over.
That was
I
fun.
don't know, because I would think of, I love your pillars, the 3 E's that we talk about here at Hermit Woods.
Education, experience, and
experience,
entertainment.
and entertainment. I feel like we've got things going on all the time. I feel like this broadcast that we do every week, well, there is a lot of entertainment to it because
Entertainment and education.
it's goofy, but it's a lot of education,
Yeah.
and that's, if you have a topic that you're curious about and you'd like us to research and present, you let us know. And then on the entertainment, we've got all our music coming up, shows 3
Yep.
nights, or music 3 nights a week at least.
Well,
now,
it's
and we've got
entertainment
the-
isn't just about that. I mean,
It's
you're
just-
entertained when you're at the tasting bar with us.
Yeah.
You see Josiah behind that tasting
Oh,
bar.
yeah,
He's
right.
very
We had a few
entertaining.
people come in yesterday that I guess they had met Josiah up at his
At
other
Dan Brew
job.
House.
So he works up at
At the Damn Brew
the
House.
Dan Brew House, another wonderful.
We
New
had
Hampshire brewery,
beer
yeah.
with him there
And
one
so
day.
they
Yeah.
came in and they said, "We'd like to do tasting, but only if Josiah does it." We said, "Well, you're in luck. He's at the tasting
That's
bar
right.
today." So
Yeah, I
So they
spoke
had
with
a-
them
they
too.
had a great
came
time
here.
over there
That's how they discovered us from
Yep.
going to the
That's
brew
great.
house.
yeah,
Go
They came
Josiah.
yeah, he's become our tasting bar star.
You
this
know,
summer.
he
Yeah.
is our star. I mean, I remember when I was behind the tasting bar the majority of time in the early days, and I had, I was a bucket full of enthusiasm, and I could hang out behind that tasting bar for 6 hours. I can't anymore. I just can't do it. It's just, I don't have the stamina.
Getting older.
I know.
Getting older.
And then I see Josiah, and I just see myself. I see, the same energy and same excitement and same enthusiasm, and
Just a-
and he can do it for 8 hours.
Oh, I know.
It's
Full on
amazing.
bar, and
It's amazing.
we could do that just a mere 10 years ago.
I know. Don't rub it in. That's okay. So I think we've covered it. I
Yeah.
think we are coming to the end of another Monday night.
That's amazing.
It's amazing, but I really do appreciate all of you who did join us today. Thank you, and all of you in the
The live
future who
audience.
decide to come and see our video. anybody who would like to see any of our shows,
They're
I
all
think there's 150 or 200 shows that are listed on our Facebook, on our website under, if you go to events, under the event tab is a Facebook Live tab. And on that tab, you can see every show we've ever done, which is fascinating for me, probably more so than even the audience, because to go back and look at some of the early episodes of things that we talked about in 2020 and 2021 is really cool.
I have a fun time with it on the rare occasion when we can't do a live broadcast, and sometimes we'll repost one from a previous thing. I love going back through and finding one that's
finding a rerun.
Use an old one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a
Yeah.
really good one, and it's fun going back and listening to them.
Yeah,
So-
very good.
Thank you for once again spending your Monday afternoon or evening with us, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week for a topic yet to be determined. Wait a
Sounds
minute.
great.
No, we're still here.
We're still here.
Yeah. Wednesday. We
Okay, Wednesday we leave. Yes, so see you next Monday, likely from this location.
2 Mondays from
It's
now
a surprise.
will
It's
be a surprise.
It's even a surprise to me. I'm not even sure where I'm going to be 2 Mondays from now, but tune in
That's the
and
way
you
we
will
like it.
find out. Best way, subscribe, and you will for sure find out. So
There you go.
thank you everybody
Cheers,
for
everybody.
spending another Monday night. Have a good evening, and we'll see you next week.